You think you know how to give criticism? You're probably wrong. Most of our attempts to deliver difficult feedback are designed to make us, the giver, feel better. The truth is that smart, well-intentioned people fail at this every single day, creating resentment where they intended to create growth. Both total honesty and gentle sugarcoating have catastrophic downsides. Where do you draw the line? By the end of this, your entire model for feedback might be obsolete. The most common method is the praise sandwich. You know it well. Start with a compliment, squeeze the criticism in the middle, end with another compliment. It sounds balanced, considerate, and professional. It's a technique taught in management seminars across the world. The logic is simple. You cushion the blow. You show the person that you still value them, which should make the negative feedback easier to swallow. It signals good intent. The goal is to preserve the relationship while delivering a necessary correction. It feels safe. But who is it safe for? The praise sandwich often fails for one devastating reason. The listener knows it's a formula. They feel the structure. The moment you lead with a slightly generic compliment, their brain flags it. They brace for impact. The opening praise feels disingenuous, like a required formality before the real conversation begins. The closing praise feels like a hasty attempt to smooth things over. As a result, the only thing they truly hear is the criticism in the middle, now amplified by the perceived insincerity surrounding it. The bread is stale. All they taste is the bitter filling. This method can also create profound confusion. Some people only hear the praise and miss the criticism entirely. They walk away thinking, "Great meeting. My boss thinks I'm doing a wonderful job on my presentation skills," while the boss is left wondering why the presentations never improve. Others hear the criticism so loudly that the praise becomes meaningless. It feels like a manipulation tactic. It corrodes trust. You tried to protect their feelings, but you ended up looking like you couldn't be straight with them. It protects the giver from feeling like a jerk, but it can leave the receiver feeling condescended to, confused, or even insulted. That sounds like a failure. But there's a problem with the alternative. So the answer is radical candor, brutal honesty. Just say the thing. This model argues that being direct is a form of respect. It treats the other person as a professional adult who can handle the truth. It's efficient. It's clear there is no room for misinterpretation. Your work on this project was sloppy. You interrupt people constantly in meetings. This report is unacceptable. The feedback is unambiguous. Proponents of this style from Wall Street to Silicon Valley claim it fosters a culture of high performance. It cuts through the noise. It forces excellence. Sugarcoating, they argue, is just a form of cowardice. It prioritizes politeness over progress. And yet, this approach has a failure mode that is just as spectacular. Without a foundation of deep pre-existing trust, brutal honesty is just brutal. It triggers a threat response in the listener's brain. The amygdala fires. The nervous system prepares for a fight. The person stops listening to the content of your feedback and starts defending their own identity. You think you're giving them data to improve. They feel like you're attacking their competence, their character. You're trying to fix a problem with the work, but they are now busy protecting their sense of self. It can decimate morale. It can create a culture of fear, where people are afraid to take risks or admit mistakes. The feedback may be technically accurate. It's also completely useless, because it was delivered in a way that made it impossible to hear the message was sent. It was never received. The truth is more complicated than either side admits. The debate between soft and hard feedback misses the point entirely. The real goal is to give criticism that leads to change. That requires moving beyond the question of delivery style. It requires a fundamental shift in the objective of the conversation itself. Most criticism is framed as a judgment. You did this wrong. It's a verdict delivered from a superior position. This framing almost guarantees a defensive reaction. The person feels like they're on trial. A more effective model reframes the conversation. The goal shifts from delivering a verdict to solving a problem together. It's a subtle but powerful change. Consider the Situation Behavior Impact Model, or SBI. You start by grounding the feedback in a specific neutral context. In the team meeting this morning, that's the situation. It's objective. Then you describe the specific observable behavior. You spoke over Sarah twice while she was presenting her findings. This is also objective. It avoids judgmental labels like disrespectful or rude. You are describing what you saw. like a camera. Finally, you describe the impact the behavior had on you, the team, or the project. The impact was that the flow of the conversation was broken, and we lost the thread of her argument. I also worried it might discourage others from sharing their ideas. This is radically different. You are providing data, not a character assessment. The focus is on the consequences of an action, which is something a person can change. Attacking their character is something they can only defend. The SBI model invites collaboration. The implied question is, this is the effect of your action. What can we do about it? It changes the entire dynamic. You are no longer judge and defendant. You are two people looking at the same problem. The problem is the behavior's impact. It creates an alliance. That sounds convincing, but it has its own blind spot. The SBI model assumes the other person is a rational actor, ready and willing to engage with the data you present. What happens when they aren't? What happens when the person is chronically defensive? You can frame your feedback perfectly, using all the right techniques, and still hit a wall of denial, excuses, and counterattacks. Some people have built their entire identity around the idea of being competent or a good person. Your feedback, however gently delivered, threatens that core identity, and their psychological immune system will fight it with everything it has. In these cases, the problem isn't the feedback. The problem is the foundation. You can't build a house on quicksand. Here, the only effective strategy is to address the defensiveness itself, often before the criticism is even delivered. One powerful technique is to ask for permission. I have some observations about the project that I think could be helpful, but I'm not sure if now is a good time. Would you be open to hearing them? This simple act does two things. First, it respects their autonomy. It gives them a sense of control. Second, by saying yes, they are psychologically priming themselves to be more receptive. They have opted in. It's a micro-commitment to listening. It can turn a potential confrontation into a consultation. You can also frame it as a request for help. I'm struggling with how our meetings are running. I feel like we're losing valuable ideas. Can I get your perspective on what happened this morning? This enrolls them as a problem solver. It depersonalizes the issue. It's no longer about their specific mistake. It's about a shared challenge that you need their help to fix. This approach requires more patience. It's slower, but with a highly defensive person, a direct approach is doomed anyway. You're simply choosing a path with a higher probability of an actual breakthrough, even if it takes longer to get there. And yet, this puts an enormous burden on the person giving the feedback. Is it really one person's job to manage another person's ego so carefully? This brings us to the core tension of the entire debate. We've been analyzing this as an impersonal skill, a one-on-one challenge. But what if it's a systemic problem? What if the reason feedback is so fraught with peril is because our workplaces are fundamentally unsafe, psychologically speaking? In a culture of high psychological safety, feedback is just data. It's a gift. It's how the team gets better. It's rarely taken as a personal attack because people feel secure in their roles and valued as individuals. They know that a mistake is just a mistake. It's not an indictment of their worth. Google's Project Aristotle, a massive internal study on team effectiveness, found that psychological safety was the single most important factor in high-performing teams. It was more important than individual talent, team structure, or workload. Teams where members felt safe to be vulnerable, to ask stupid questions, and to admit errors without fear of humiliation were more innovative, more productive, and more successful. In that kind of environment, the praise sandwich is unnecessary. Brutal honesty is unnecessary. Feedback just becomes part of the daily workflow. A programmer points out a bug in a colleague's code. A designer questions a user interface choice. A manager flags a section of a report that's unclear. It's normal. It's helpful. So maybe the obsession with finding the perfect technique for giving criticism is a symptom of a deeper disease. It's a patch we apply to a culture of fear and low trust. We're trying to learn the perfect way to whisper in a room where everyone is afraid to speak. Fixing the culture is harder. It takes leadership, consistency, and time. It means leaders must model vulnerability first. They must admit their own mistakes openly. They must reward people for flagging problems even if it's uncomfortable. It requires building a system where feedback is sought out, not just pushed down. This shifts the responsibility. The burden moves from the individual trying to master a difficult conversation to the organization tasked with creating an environment where those conversations are easy. The best technique for giving criticism might be to build a culture where you hardly need a technique at all. That's a compelling vision, but it's also a long-term project. You still have to give feedback to your colleague tomorrow morning. You still have to have that difficult conversation with your partner tonight. You can't wait for the entire system to change. You have to operate within the system you have. You have to work with the people you have. People who are stressed, insecure, and primed for defensiveness, just like you are. So what do you think? Is effective criticism a precision skill, requiring the right words and the right model, like a surgeon with a scalpel? Or is that just a temporary fix for a deeper problem of culture and trust? When you have to deliver a hard truth, where do you focus your energy? On perfectly crafting the message, or on acknowledging the flawed, defensive, and deeply human system you're both a part of?